I remember praying that God would use my pain. If I have to go through 2 back-to-back losses, I don't want my pain to be for nothing. Even if it was just one loss, like, I don't want that pain to be for nothing. And I knew that I wanted God to use me for his glory in that and to be able to walk with other women through that. And it just gave me a passion for Lost Mamas, which, not to spoil it, but that is my project for HJ, is surrounding miscarriage resources, an Amazon list of things that will help you if you have time to order things for your loss, one-on-one calls with women to do miscarriage debriefs, things like that. So it has come full circle and has been redeeming.
Holy Wild Birth is a podcast embracing the reclamation of giving birth, rooted in God's original design, undisturbed.
Here, we share homebirth stories highlighting God's presence as the great midwife, as well as conversations about all aspects of a holistic, spirit-led childbearing year. From the perspectives of myself, traditional midwife Lauren Hall of Rooted in Eden Private Contract Association,
and me, holistic doula and birthkeeper Brooke Collier of Sister Birth.
To choose a holy wild birth journey is to consecrate all your decisions unto the Lord.
And to reclaim creation unadulterated by centuries of human attempts to control and improve upon what God has already called good.
Please remember, birth is not a medical event, but a natural process. We are not your care providers, and this should not be taken as medical advice. Welcome back to the Holy Wild Birth podcast. I am here with a special guest that I'm so excited to introduce to you. She is one of our HJ students, and her name is Kurin Adele. And you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself? Tell our listeners who you are.
Hello, my name is Kurin. And like Lauren said, I am a current HJ student getting ready to graduate here in October, which is crazy that it's already been almost a year. I share a lot of my life online. I'm a mom of 3. I'm passionate about birth work and being a mother and sharing my faith. And I'm just really excited to chat about my passion today and how I have come to birth work.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm so excited. I think that and hope that our listeners will hear just a little bit of their own story and find as they hear you, they'd be able to kind of just relate and get some wisdom. I love hearing you share on your own platforms and in our Hearth calls. I think you are just a bundle of wisdom, even in your beginning journeys. So I'm excited for our listeners to get to know you a little bit. So where do you want to start today?
Yeah, so I'm just going to start from my toddlerhood. So I have always just had that motherliness about me. I have always just had that. My love for children and motherhood started when I was a little girl. My own mother wasn't able to breastfeed me, but I intuitively still knew that's how you fed babies. So I would walk around at 2 years old with a Teletubby connected to my chest and would pretend to breastfeed my Teletubby because I just knew that is how you feed babies. And I started babysitting at a very young age. I sit back now as a mother thinking, what the heck were my mom's friends thinking when they let me babysit their children overnight at 11 years old? But I was, yes, yeah. They would go like do Black Friday shopping and I would stay at their house and take care of their 3 kids. But I have just always had that responsible piece about me. I am the oldest of 4, so I think that has a lot to do with it, my birth order.
Yeah.
always kind of just been a leader and have always taken that role very seriously. So yeah, as a mother, I'm like, that's crazy. I would never let an 11-year-old watch my children, but they trusted me and they allowed me to watch their kids at that young. And
that's funny. Actually, that's when I started babysitting as well, was when I was 11.
Yeah. So I never ever had a career that I wanted to pursue. You know, growing up, everyone's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, I want to be an astronaut, firefighter, a ballerina, whatever. I didn't have a career that I wanted other than I wanted to be a mom. And I grew up with a stay-at-home mom, and I remember the first time I realized that other moms went to work and worked a 9-to-5 job was when I became friends with one of my closest friends in middle school. And I asked if I could go over to her house, and she said, well, my mom's not home yet. She'll get home at 6 p.m. And I was like, what do you mean? Your mom's not home? And it was just so shocking to me because I was kind of in my own little bubble, didn't realize that most families don't have stay-at-home moms because that's how I thought life was.
Yeah.
And I just remember loving babies, loving children. And every day when I'd come home from school, I would beg my mom to turn on the show, TLC's A Baby Story.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with watching those birth stories. And that was my favorite thing to watch as a little girl. I was just so fascinated with birth. I was so fascinated with babies. And my mom had always told me, oh, well, you could be a midwife one day. You could be a midwife. You could help people deliver their babies.
I love that she said midwife. Where did she have a grid for midwifery as well, or?
She had all of her babies in the hospital, and I'm not sure if she went the obstetrician route or if she did midwifery in the hospital.
Like a CNM?
I'm not sure. But yeah, she did always talk about midwifery to me.
Crazy.
And
That's
I'm
interesting.
not sure.
Yeah, because normally you'd hear you could be a baby doctor, you could be an OB.
Right. A nurse.
Unless they were already, an L&D nurse.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe sometimes you get doula. So it's really interesting that her not being a home birther to speak midwife over you. What a beautiful thing.
Right. Yeah. And my mom, I would not describe her as crunchy or like any of the ways that I raised my children. She did things differently. So I also find it interesting that she was speaking midwife over me as well. So she would always talk to me about, oh, you could be a midwife. So then I started telling people that I wanted to be a midwife, but most people didn't know what that was.
Right.
And yeah, they're like, what? What's a midwife? So as I grew older, I did not pursue any sort of midwifery. And I kind of wish that that was continued to be spoken over me because I wonder what it would have looked like if I had someone pushing me in that direction. But that's not how it worked out.
Sure.
And I decided to pursue becoming a teacher because, again, I loved children and all of my jobs were in childcare working with kids. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, well, I'll just be a teacher. So I ended up doing an early childhood education program in high school, went on to college to become a teacher, and I dropped out of college because I was burnt out. I was working at a daycare for a while and realized, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can be a teacher. This is a lot of work taking care of these children and just dealing with daycare stuff. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I don't even want to be a teacher. So I'm going to drop out of college. I was 2 or 3 credits away from getting my AA and I stopped going to college. Quickly after, me and my husband got engaged and we got married and we moved a couple hours away from our family, and I was working as a nanny, and it just sparked my love for babies again. Mm-hmm. Really gave me baby fever because I was working with infants, and I was like, okay, I know that our plan was to wait 5 years to have kids, but should we rethink this? And so me and my husband got pregnant around our 1-year anniversary of being married. And I got pregnant with my son. And I didn't have like super strong convictions around like what my birth would look like. I did not pursue midwifery for my care. I just did what my other friend had done because I was one of the youngest to get pregnant in my friends group. So I reached out to my friend and I was like, who's your OB? How do I even get care? Like, tell me what to do. And I kind of just followed her path, went to an OB. And, went system, never got to see the doctor that I wanted to see, ended up being induced and had a whole induction. And I just left that experience with a fire under me a little bit to experience something different in the future.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's kind of when the spark of midwifery came back around to me. Not for me to become a midwife, but for me to pursue that kind of care in the future.
Sure.
And yeah, in my pregnancy with my son, Israel, I was reading all the books to like have an unmedicated delivery. And but I wasn't like, it wasn't a conviction for me yet to like want to do this physiologically. And I kind of just went with the flow as most people do in OB care. But yeah, it was after him and just having to fight tooth and nail for the decisions that we were making with him, not doing Hep B, vitamin K, all of those things. It was just so much being less than 24 hours postpartum and having a pediatrician telling you that you are going to essentially kill your child if you don't give them this injection. It was a lot. Experiencing that and being bullied as a first-time mom. I was 22 and I knew I was making the right choices. Yeah, I was a baby and I knew I was making the right choices for him, but it was still a lot to have doctors coming in and making you sign things and telling you, we've got babies up there right now with brain bleeds from parents just like you that didn't make this choice. Yeah, it was rough. So me and my husband left that experience realizing that we wanted a different experience next time around.
Yeah.
So
well, good for you on holding your ground.
Yeah, I to this day am shocked that we didn't give in because I still wasn't fully convicted in my choices yet, but I was like on the line.
Yeah, so I heard you say that. So I was like, look at you following.
Yeah.
I knew what even though it wasn't, you had kind of fallen the same song and dance and fallen into the stream and just going. And yet it makes sense hearing that most of your story was about being like a babysitter, and you started with this love of babies and you started with this protection of babies. So it makes so much sense that your real gateway would be when you were called to be a protector of your baby, that it would make a major shift. Like that's what did it for you.
Totally. So I ended up getting pregnant again about 9 months postpartum, and I was not ready to be pregnant again. And I just remember feeling like, God, really? I lost my milk supply and it was really rough. My gosh, like going through that because my son had never really taken a bottle. I was just exclusively breastfeeding. And then I had to be shoving a bottle in his face trying to feed him because he was showing signs of dehydration. And I would just hold him and he'd be turning his head towards me trying to latch. Yeah. And I'd be trying to give him a bottle. And we would both cry for like 2 weeks at every feeding. It was so hard. Yeah, it was really difficult.
That's heartbreaking.
And I remember my chiropractor coming over and giving me an adjustment. And I was just kind of telling her my feelings about not being ready to have another baby and sad that I lost my supply. And she was just kind of speaking life into me and just being so kind and giving me these great words of encouragement.
Yeah.
So I started to get a little excited and I'm like, you know what? This is going to be fun. 2 under 2. I was due in July and my birthday's in July. So I was like, well, maybe I'll have a birthday baby. This will be exciting. And I ended up having a loss and I felt so guilty for even having thoughts of not being ready. And I felt almost like responsible for maybe,
those lies get loud.
Something. They do. And then I got even more upset because I was like, okay, so I lost my supply for nothing because I ended up miscarrying and I tried to relactate and my body didn't want to do it. Yeah. And so I had donor for my son, who I am so grateful for. She's just so incredible for feeding my son for several months. But it lit that fire to get pregnant again. And so me and my husband got pregnant again 2 months later. So excited, but kind of scared. I really didn't think I was going to have a loss again. I kind of thought my first one was a fluke. And they happened, but surely this baby would stick. And I had another loss. And this was in 2020. So back-to-back losses in 2020. When my husband couldn't even come to appointments with me, I'm forced to wear a mask or they're not going to see me. I couldn't even FaceTime my husband when I was getting ultrasounds done to see if the baby's heart was still beating. He wouldn't even allow me to do that.
Because that was going to spread COVID. I'm sorry. That's okay.
I don't even know.
I'm going to hold myself for a minute.
I know.
You FaceTiming somebody was going to create COVID issues? How?
She told me, if we see anything, I'll take a picture for you, but you can't FaceTime your husband. I'm like, okay. So we did the ultrasound. There was a perfect little gummy bear baby in there, but no heartbeat. And it was devastating. Devastating, because I didn't think it would happen 2 times in a row. I really didn't. But I remember praying that God would use my pain. If I have to go through 2 back-to-back losses, I don't want my pain to be for nothing. Even if it was just one loss, I don't want that pain to be for nothing. And I knew that I wanted God to use me for his glory in that, and to be able to walk with other women through that. And it just gave me a passion for Lost Mamas, which, not to spoil it, but that is my project for HJ, is surrounding miscarriage resources, an Amazon list of things that will help you if you have time to order things for your loss. One-on-one calls with women to do miscarriage debriefs, things like that. So it has come full circle and has been redeeming. And I do believe that going through losses makes me a better birth worker, because I can empathize with other women who have lost their children. So that loss was devastating, but also I really felt God's hand and God's peace, because with my first loss, I wasn't able to actually meet my baby. And this one, I was able to deliver my baby at home. They came out in this perfect little sack, still in their sack, in the amniotic fluid, in this perfect girl. And I was able to hold my baby, meet my baby, take pictures, videos, pray. And then I was able to get my baby cremated and have that kind of just remembrance of my child. And again, that situation made me just want to have a baby even more. I feel like when you have losses, it'll go either way. It's either like, I can't do this again, I need some time before I conceive, or it's like, I need a baby now.
Right.
So me and my husband got pregnant again 3 months later with our double rainbow baby. And I had a home birth with her, with midwife. And I really got to experience midwifery care. I got to experience the physiological birth. It really did. Throughout her pregnancy is when I started to share more about birth online, is when I started to kind of gain more of a presence, because people were shocked that I was delivering at home. I feel like now it's really becoming a lot more normalized, which is amazing. But even a couple years ago, I feel like it was still kind of looked at to be a little crazy. And she'll be 4 in December, which is crazy. I cannot believe she's going to be 4. But she also really sparked me to want to be in birth work. And I remember after I delivered her at home, my midwife, on one of our appointments, postpartum appointments, she was like, so do you want to be a birth worker now? Because most women who have home births, they want to be in birth work because they see, how incredible it can be. And I was like, I think she probably
saw it in you.
And she's like, most of my clients do end up becoming doulas.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Or become midwives or go down the path of midwifery. So, Cicely's birth was really what kind of sparked that in me. And again, he ignited it from my childhood.
Yeah.
But I didn't really start to pursue birth work until after my third, which is my second daughter, who I delivered at home with no medical professionals present upon her birth. She was born 11/11/2023, and her birth story is so sweet, and God just answered every single prayer. I just love how he's in the details of, he just cares about the details. And that was kind of my theme with her pregnancy and her birth was I just kept telling people he cares about the details. Ask about the specific things. I think it might have been Brooke that was talking about her birth story or someone's birth story about how she wanted to see deer outside. Was that Brooke or was that someone else? Or was that you?
That feels very, very familiar. It might be Brooke. I want to say.
Or maybe someone you guys had on the podcast.
I remember this story. I remember Brooke's oldest, but that was flowers. There was a specific flowers. I know what you're talking about. It wasn't me. It may have been one of Brooke's.
Okay.
But I've definitely heard this story too, so I don't remember where though.
Yes. So I was just listening to all of your guys' podcasts and just hearing of all the ways to incorporate God into your birth story. And I was just so inspired by like, wait, you can ask God for the little things. You can ask him for specific details. And it was just really sweet to hear that story about the deer, which I am convinced that it was on your podcast. Someone said it.
I know it's on the podcast because I know exactly what you're talking about, but I cannot remember the mom.
So I got that from Holy Wild Birth, and I decided to ask for very specific details that did right down to the day that she was born. 11/11, I was like, God, 11/11 would be such a cute birthday. Like, I love that. And I had her at like 8:35 p.m. on 11/11.
I love it.
So, yeah. So I actually was going to join HJ during the first cohort of you guys started literally on my due date with Florence. And I remember reaching out to Brooke. I may have even had a phone call with her. And my concern was, well, I'm going to be delivering right around the start of HJ. I'm just not sure if it's going to work out for me. I was worried about having a newborn and trying to juggle everything. And ultimately,
baby, that
so
due date?
I was due the same day that you guys started that first cohort.
So you were doing that.
I think it was like
October. That baby. That was what I was trying to. Yes.
Yeah. And
I have to interrupt really quick.
Yeah,
you said it.
Go ahead.
And I was like, I have to know. You said 8:35. On 11/11. And I was like, what does 8:35 mean? And the Hebrew word for 8:35 means blessed. So
wow. I didn't know that.
I just had to let you know. Like,
I love that. That's
said,
so
yes,
cool.
Blessed on 11/11.
Yeah. Wow.
So anyways, we were starting HJ on your due date.
Yes. And I really wanted to join it because I had been just listening to all of your guys' podcasts, and I just really felt like you and Brooke you're filling a gap that needs to be filled in the birth world, because there are a lot of secular groups that I just love 70% of it, but the other 30% I'm like, oh, I just can't align with that. And when I found you guys, I was like, oh, wait, this is exactly what I was looking for. So I was really wanting to join that cohort, and I decided not to. And I really appreciate Brooke's honesty and her wisdom and telling me, like, we're going to have more cohorts. You don't have to rush this decision. You can join in the future. And I believe, when I joined this last year, it was the perfect timing for me to do that. So after I birthed Florence, I really started to want to pursue birth work. And I had it in my mind that I was going to join HJ the following year. And I kept telling myself and others, I'm not going to start attending births yet, but I do want to just educate myself. I want to be somebody who's walking into births with a ton of knowledge under my belt because I've never aligned with the just weekend doula course and then walking into births, because I know how big it is. I know how big it is to attend women in birth. And I wanted to make sure that I was fully ready for that, the bigness of these women's lives. And I don't take that lightly. So I just kept telling, my audience when they would ask me, hey, are you going to attend births yet? And I was like, no, I don't know when. I'm not sure when. I've got a lot on my plate. I have, my 3 kids. And right before the opening of HJ's enrollment, me and my husband went to church, and we thought it was just going to be a normal day where we were going to hear a message, and it wasn't. It was a day of prophecy. And so we go to a very small church under the bridge. There's less than 50 people at every service. It's just very sweet. We walked in there and I was not expecting to have a word spoken over me, but me and my husband had a word spoken over us.
Yeah.
And my specific word was birth work, me walking with women, me being with women. And I knew that God was speaking to me, telling me, it's time for you to open this door and walk through it. I did not feel ready. I still had a very young nursling. I had a not even 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. And I was like, God, how am I going to do this? I feel so overwhelmed with everything I already have. But it was so clear that he was speaking to me and telling me that it was time for me to walk through this door and start pursuing birth work. And not just start pursuing it, but start attending women, which felt huge to me. So I ended up having another call with Brooke, same conversation. I don't know. I just started a podcast. I have an almost 1-year-old. I've got a lot on my plate. Not quite sure how I'm going to get this done. And Brooke was just encouraging me and basically was like, yeah, it's true. You can only do a few things really well at once, but, continue to pray about it. And talked with my husband, prayed about it, and really felt like that prophetic word was just strong. And God was telling me it's time for you to do this. So I signed up for HJ. And I was so excited when I finally did it. And I remember when you guys had mentioned attending 3 births, that we could attend 3 births or we could do a second project. And I was like, 3 births? How could I do that? How could I attend 3 births? What? And so I got on my Instagram stories and I was like, guys, I just joined this, year-long program. And I don't know if I should attend these births or if I should do a second project. Everyone's like, Kurin, what the heck? Attend the births. What are you talking about? Attend the births. And I just kept praying. I was like, God, if you want me to attend these births, bring them to me. Bring me these births. And one after the other, I started getting messages from people who were pregnant and wanted me to attend their births. And I just picked up my 3rd birth not even a week ago. So that's really exciting that God really provided
right in the timing. I remember, and it must have been maybe one of the first early Hearth calls or the Orient call or something, because I don't believe I got to talk to you before you joined. But I remember it being very fresh at the beginning. We had a conversation and you were kind of sharing exactly what you're talking about now. And I just remembered thinking that you were ready to attend the births because you didn't feel ready.
Oh my gosh.
There was this, you had so much honor for the birth space. And I was like, that's what it takes. You're never going to be ready in the sense of, I know all the things, I've arrived, right? Like, come in competent, yes, but also it was, she's got the honor piece. She understands that it's a sacred space. And I was like, oh, she's ready because she gets that. If you get that, everything else can be added. But, it's like you were keeping the Lord first. And it reminds me of that verse. If you keep him first, everything else is added unto you. Right. And so you were keeping that first and you kept the sacredness of birth and the understanding. I just remember going, oh, you're ready, honey. I just remember thinking, you're ready. It's
That's
good.
so sweet. I love that. I love that. Yeah, it's just so true that like I just really felt like I needed all the things. And I do believe it's absolutely necessary for you to have some sort of idea of what you're
Yes.
getting yourself into. But it was almost to a fault where I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not ready. I can't do this
Right. The
until
paralysis versus.
right. Yes. Yeah. Until God was like, okay, I'm handing you these births now. God really
Right.
had to like come right up to my face with these things and be very direct. And I cannot sing HJ's praises enough. I am so thankful for this course. And just honestly, the biggest thing that I have taken from it is prayer, which sounds so simple. It sounds so simple, but I would have never really thought I have adopted your way of clients hiring you, taking that week of prayer and waiting on the Lord to hear if it's a yes or a no. And I don't know if I ever would have really done that without hearing like, no, we need to be asking God if this is the client that he has for you. Like how much protection we have as birth workers when we are giving every single client to God.
Yes.
And I just loved hearing your stories about like, I was going to attend my really good friend, but God kept saying no. And I believe it was the time that you had lost somebody.
My
and
grandmother.
your friend, your friend
The
was
day
delivering.
she was giving birth, I was at my grandmother's deathbed.
Yeah.
And we didn't know why he had told us no. Both of us were kind of confused, but we were like, okay, I won't go. And so it wasn't even about the birth. It was about making sure that he knew where I would need to be for my own heart and my family. So yeah, absolutely.
I was so encouraged by that specific piece, and I have continued to carry it with me throughout all of my consultations. I've had multiple no's, and God has been so gracious to show me each time why he said no, and he doesn't even have to do that.
He doesn't have to do that, and he doesn't always.
Not.
But
and he doesn't
it's
always.
so beautiful. And I think it's he tends to do it in the training ground when you're like, let me show you,
Okay.
like, let me show you how you, like, I'm doing this for a purpose, just trust. And he moves at the speed of trust. And like,
that's so good.
That was one of the first times that story that I shared was, and he like showed me in such a very profound way that it marked me, and I hear it, it marks other people. And the first few no's and yeses were very, very clear, and the whys were always shown. And then it got to the point where he stopped telling me, but I could trust him because I knew that he had a good reason and I didn't need to know it.
Yeah.
So
and I feel like that's the season that I am still in as well, because he has shown me directly in my face why he said yes to a client that I was so confused as to why I was serving.
I remember that story. Yeah.
I was so confused. I'm like, God, why do you have me here? And it was not about the birth. It wasn't about the birth. And I was so encouraged and humbled and thankful to have gone through that and see, God show up and be like, I am going to show you why I said yes. And like we had said, he doesn't have to, but I just love it. I just love that I feel like he's just been so direct with me over the past, it's been over a year, close to a year and a half with my path and my journey in birth work. And previously I have struggled a lot, like with hearing God's voice and like deciphering, is this me or is this God? And I just am seeing how like when I am obedient and I'm stepping into the roles that he's having for me, I'm hearing his voice a lot more clearly.
Yeah.
And I have definitely experienced that through HJ. And like I was saying, like just simply the praying piece, and not just even over your potential clients, but just in general. And I love that this course is not just like, oh yeah, it's birth work with a hint of Christ in it. It's like, no, this is Christ centered, woven into the entire thing. And it's just been such a huge spiritual journey and spiritual growth for me, and like a mentorship for sure with you and Brooke. And I absolutely love it. And I have just been recommending it to every woman who's like, should I do it? I'm like, yes, it's been so amazing. Like, I literally was listening to one of your guys' podcasts last night where you were talking about the next cohort. And I'm like thinking in my head, can I join it?
Can I join again?
I wish I could join this next one. Because I'm like, I don't want it to end. And I know that I'm still going to like be a part of Rooted in Eden, and all of that, but it's just been
your
so
circles
amazing.
Will stay there, and I think we're gonna have to start doing some more like community calls or like alum calls or something, because now that we're starting to get a few more cohorts, and it's like, wait a second, it's been a long time since we've talked to so and so, and we have to get some get the gang back together calls.
Yes. Seriously. Yeah, I think that would be so amazing to just stay in community with other like-minded women and believers. And yeah, it's just been so encouraging and really was the step that I needed. And I just, like I had said earlier, I never resonated with the weekend doula trainings. And when I saw that you guys were creating... Yes, clearly. You guys were doing something that was closer to a year long. I'm like, this is exactly what I need. I did end up taking a 4-day in-person course here locally where I live in Washington, just to be a part of something in person. And I felt like it was great for supplemental, and but that is like so not enough for me personally. Like I can't imagine that.
It's
just
a great
doing it.
Supplemental is a great word. It's helpful to connect to your community. It's helpful to have some like hands-on, like, working with real people in real time right in front of you. Like there's such deep value there.
Yes.
But you can't pack in what you like. This is it's any more than you can grow a baby in a weekend. You cannot grow a birthkeeper or a midwife or a doula in a weekend. Like you just can't.
Right.
It just does not work.
There's so much pruning involved. There's so much like deep spiritual work. And there's just like a lot of softening that I've had to have as well with my strong biases with birth itself.
Sure.
I really, really got wrapped up in a lot of ideologies from another big birth group that I was able to throw away a lot of it, but I do feel like there was a bit of harshness that came upon me from listening to a lot of that stuff. And although a lot of it is good, a good message, a lot of it isn't. And so I started to just become
idols. It seeps in real quick, even with an overarching like good message.
Absolutely.
If the roots aren't right, it will rot us really quickly, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
Are you a Jesus-loving woman who feels called to serve birthing mothers, but feels overwhelmed by the secular New Age ideologies in the birth world? You sense the holy tug to be a birthkeeper, doula, or traditional midwife, but it feels impossible to find training that honors both your faith and autonomous birth.
Allow us to introduce you to Hearthmother Journey. This isn't just another birth worker training. It's a transformative journey that will ground your birth ministry in biblical wisdom, equip you with a Christ-centered methodology of traditional, undisturbed birth practices, transform you into the wise guide God is calling you to be, expand the depth and breadth of your understanding of physiological pregnancy, birth, and postpartum.
Join the rising of the modern Hearthmother, centered on God's holy hearth, serving as His handmaiden, carrying the sacred fire of wisdom and truth.
We're on a mission to raise up the next generation of holy wild birthkeepers. Will you be one of them? Click the link in the show notes to take the next step into your calling.
Yeah. And I just feel like when I started to discover Holy Wild Birth and then joined HJ, I was really humbled in a lot of my thinking. And God was so kind to do it in such a kindness as well.
Yeah.
Because I did start to really, yes, I really started to have a lot of that black and white thinking, even though it didn't quite make sense. You know, it was just like, oh yeah, I believe this. And I remember one of my very first calls, Brooke told me, I was asking her about births and attending births. She was like, you know what? You might want to have your hand open to attending hospital births for your first few. And I was like, what? Like, no way. Like, I'm only going to do home births. And guess what? My first birth was a hospital birth.
Yeah.
And I was very humbled with that experience. And I'm just so thankful for the gentle leading of not only God, our Father, but you and Brooke, and how it's so integrated. It's integrated so beautifully. And it's very convicting in a way that is easy to digest.
Yeah.
And so I'm just very thankful for that and the mentoring and how you guys make room for all of it. You make room for the cesareans and the hospital transfers, and it's not demonized. It's not putting women down, you know, because there's room for all of it, especially if it's Holy Spirit led. And that's the most important part, is if we are following the Holy Spirit's voice in what we are doing. And I recently went through the module even about like the induction stuff. And I feel like if I had listened to that a year ago, I would have been scoffing at it and been like, oh my gosh, why are they adding this in? And I listened to it and I was like, yeah, there is a time and a place sometimes for this stuff.
Very few.
And I'm
very, very rare. Very, very rare. You know, very, 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 very rare. I do not do induction. And yet also never say never. Never,
and I appreciate like knowing that you guys very much believe in physiological birth, but you are also willing to have an open hand, and you're never going to be close-handed on anything. And so, yeah, all of this needs to be talked about in a healthy way, and it's okay to talk about it, and we don't need to demonize.
Yeah, it's interesting you would bring up that lesson too, knowing that you're kind of feeling this call into loss support, because that is honestly where I use most of that wisdom is largely used, I would say almost exclusively used in the support of loss.
Yep. And I had used support in my first loss as well at home. So I have myself done that. I think I have like a pretty big bias against natural quote home induction.
I absolutely
for a good reason. Because that happened to me with my first home birth. And so I do obviously have a very strong bias against it, but I also see how God has softened me and humbled me to just be like, yeah, it's not going to happen often, but we're not going to completely demonize this and exit it out.
Exactly. I mean, I absolutely have the same, like, let's not, just so our listeners know, I have very strong convictions against this. In fact,
and we have talked about this on Hearth calls too. I think I even had talked about my story before.
Probably. So. And, it was done with me with my first home birth as well. I really, it's not safe. There's a lot of risks going on when you're bringing in if you're doing that, there has to be a real reason. And it should be for safety, not like it is not safe to just induce a baby. And in fact, I even have it in my own like service agreements with my members that I serve as a midwife. I'm like, if you induce yourself, that is a contract breaking. Like if you induce yourself without talking to me, like this is not it's something I take very, very seriously. So, but it is something that we can't be black and white about. And there's a time and a place, and I've had to do one this year, And so there's a time and a place. And I think that is when we recognize we can't put birth in a box, because the creator can't be put in a box, and he created this.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's ultimately the hope I get. I hope that people take away from those lessons and the harder modules that we put in the end for a very good reason.
Yep. Yes. Yep. And I just love that although there are very strong convictions and thought processes about our beliefs in birth, that it's not all black and white. And that is a theme that's carried. And I think it's important because it is so easy to become hardened. And that did happen to me. I was hardened. I did get a little bit harsh in my thinking and my beliefs, and I was able to be softened and humbled. And I'm like, praise God. Thank you so much for humbling me, because I could have easily just continued to go on that path and just been way too hardcore when it doesn't need to be that way. I can hold my beliefs with an open hand, you know, and allow God to work with that and let him be on the throne, not my thinking, not my flesh, not what I think is correct, but him.
Yeah.
So
preach that. Yeah.
Yeah. So here I am. I just finished my third birth. I'm going to take a couple of months off because we are going to go on a little vacation. And then I might end up taking some more births during the winter time. We'll just see. I'm just continuing to pray, again, that theme of prayer, about everything. And I just wanted to say, like, a quick encouragement for the women who are wondering, like, how can I do this? How can I do this with young kids? How can I do this with no family support? Because me and my husband, we live, hours and states away from our family. I don't have family that can just come over and watch my children when I'm at a birth. I do have friends that I could call in an emergency if I really needed them. So this was huge for me to be like, okay, I am going to take on these births, and I am going to trust that God, if he wants me there, it is going to work out. And I have had this trust and this faith that every birth was going to work out in a timely manner. And so people will ask me, well, like, how do you attend births? If your husband is working, you have no one to watch your kids. And I told them, I said, every single client that I take on, I am praying favor over the timing of their birth. And I've only had 3, so it's not like I'm doing a whole bunch of clients, but every single one of my moms has delivered when my husband was home, and 2 of them were on the weekend when my husband was home. It's just really cool to see, because I actually interviewed another gal on my podcast. She's also a birth worker. She works full-time as a nanny, but she's also a doula. And she was telling me she prays the same prayer, and she has never had a birth that interfered with her nanny work schedule. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you're just praying over, favor over these births. And it's just so cool to see that God will allow things to work out for you. And I'm sure that there is going to be times where I may have to call somebody else to come watch my kids and my husband can get home. But if God wants you there, he is going to give you the tools, the people, and the support to get you to those births.
Yep.
And also, I've got a lot on my plate. I have a lot that I'm doing, but I did not feel like HJ was overwhelming. I actually told one of my followers who asked about, like, the workload, how do you have time to do the work? And I told her, I was like, honestly, a lot of the times when I'm listening to modules, I have my laptop up on my kitchen counter while I'm doing dishes. I do dishes while I'm doing my modules.
Yeah.
And I also, on the hearth calls, I will be nursing a baby, putting a baby to bed. Yep. I'll be doing dishes. I'll be making lunch. Like, children are welcome in your daily life during the hearth calls. Like, everyone's got a baby on them for the most part. And so I just think that the way that you guys designed it with the rest and digest months, and if you need to use those to catch up, you can. Like, I took almost a month off of doing any work because we went to Japan. So I did have to use one of those months to catch up, but it really is doable. If God is calling you to it, he will walk you through it. Yes, and he will be there with you. So I was nervous about the workload, like most people are. And I have found it to be very doable. And if it's something that you're passionate about, and again, if God's calling you to it, it doesn't feel like this load or this weight of like, I've got to do this. Oh, I've got to get through my modules, or I got to read the Bible reading plan or whatever. It's like, I'm excited to get to do this.
Yeah.
Like I can't wait to sit down and journal. I can't wait to go through another module. Like I made it through all of the modules minus Brooke's birth course so far. And I'm like, dang, I wish I had more modules to go through. I'm like, I'll have to go through them again in the future and just re-listen to them, because it just became a part of my daily life, doing dishes, modules, doing my workbook, doing my Bible reading plan. And I also just love how the Bible reading plan really encourages you to be getting in the Word consistently, because it can be hard when you are in the throes of having babies, toddler life, young kids, to be consistent and to be diligent in reading your Word. And it's just been so awesome to see how it has been a way for me to get my Bible in even when I feel like I can't today. I'm like, oh, wait, no, I'm going to do my Bible reading plan and I'm going to dive into the meaning of this word in Greek or Hebrew or whatever. And it's just perfect. I just love it. And I just recommend it to everybody. And I wish I could join another cohort. Just go through it again.
Just come back through.
I know. I'm like, dang, I'm so excited for all the women that get to join.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm just so excited for all of the women that like have no idea the journey that they're getting ready to go through. Yeah. Like, it's just, it's the best.
We actually had the first group. There was several that were like, hey, I'm still, like they were needing to catch up or still going through, or there was some that wanted to go back through it. And so they literally just found the students in their cohort that were going to do it again and went through it together. So like, that's not actually the first time we've heard them. So, and the scripture reading plan is set up in a way that you can just keep, it's just reading the Bible. So you can go back through it and keep going deeper. And wow. Well, this ended up just being such a cool conversation on the birth of a birthkeeper, huh?
I know. I love it.
Well, I did not expect it to be such a glowing review of HJ, but thank you for that.
Yes, well, it's a huge piece of my story. Yeah. So I felt important to share my experience with it. Yeah. And I do get a lot of people asking for my review, so I'll probably just be like, go watch this episode. Come to this link and check it out.
Yeah, make it easy on yourself. I love that. Well, I deeply appreciate that review, but more than anything, I've appreciated getting to walk with you this past year and see you come in with such an honor for birth and get to witness that softening and get to witness your growth. And it's been such a beautiful thing. I think that's my favorite thing about HJ on this end, is getting to see the growth, not just of birth workers, but of Christian women, like truly raising up holy, wild women. It's just, I'm like, this is my job. Like somebody's paying me to watch cool. Literally the kingdom of God grow. It's just so cool. So I'm just incredibly thankful for you to be here and your presence in HJ, and now on a little bit of you on our podcast. So thank you for sharing your story. And
of course. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. All right. Well, if our listeners wanted to find you anywhere else, where should they go?
So I am on Instagram at Kurin, and I also have a podcast that is a little bit of everything. That's called the Mindful Mama Podcast. I just started it last year, and I'm getting ready to launch season 3, hopefully in October. And that is on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple.
Awesome. And I know you said it's your HJ project. So it may not be
Yes.
ready to go yet, but if there is anybody that's looking for that miscarriage support that you mentioned, is that live yet or not?
So I have just been handling that kind of through my Instagram. I will
Okay.
have women DM me and then I set it up that way. I'm having so many issues with getting my website going. I don't want to hire someone because I don't want to spend the money, but I'm like, I might have to. So I've kind of just been doing it via Instagram.
Sure.
So
Well, don't
yeah,
despise small beginnings. Just start where you're starting.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, I will put those links in the show notes so that you can find her. And thanks for tuning in. Would you like to pray us out?
Sure, I would love to.
All right.
All right. Father God, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for this beautiful day and this time that I got to spend with Lauren and getting to just share this amazing journey that you have put us women through. And I'm just so thankful for the mentorship that I've gotten to have with Lauren and Brooke and the ways that you've gotten to work through them. And I just thank you for humbling us and softening us and teaching us and doing it in such a gentle and loving way. And I just pray, God, that this message would reach all of the right people that it needs to reach, God. And I just want to thank you again for loving us and teaching us. And I just pray that we would all have an amazing rest of our day and that you would bless all of our listeners. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Holy Wild Birth. We hope that you were genuinely encouraged, inspired, and challenged by what you heard today. If you're loving what you hear, please make sure that you share it. Leave reviews. That helps other mamas find this content as well. And don't forget to read the show notes, okay? Because that's where you can find our email address if you want to reach out to us and start a conversation. It's also where you'll find free offerings as well as invitations to work with me and or Lauren. We can't wait to get to know you. See you next week.